there was a technical. Good morning, everyone. I, Professor Chainika Basu, on behalf of Dr. Vishwanath, MIT World Peace University, welcome each one of you to session of day 2 of INDCON 2021. In INDCON, we take up different themes every year. And the theme for this year is creating next frontier in research and development ecosystem enabling Atmanirbhar Bharat. Before giving a formal introduction of INDCON and IMC, I should request the technical team to play the film on INDCON. Over to my technical team.
Becoming a global leader is a noble dream. What is our strength as India? It is knowledge. The strength of a nation in the digital age we find ourselves in is governed solely by its research and development index. The speed by which technology is accelerating has been unmatched since the dawn of humanity. India boasts of the largest manpower pool under the age of 30 in the world. Though we have potentially a gold mine of researchers with us, we barely produce any research. We have to import technology from nations like China. Our universities and our industry do not seem to share the deep connection that they do in countries like the US or China. That is why the IMC's Knowledge Committee, in association with MIT World Peace University, are hosting INDCON, a revolutionary online conference between industry and academia. The way for India to become a global leader lies in its repository of knowledge. INDCON is the way to do so.
You are muted. You are muted. You are muted.
INDCON is organized by IMC under the leadership of Shri Rajiv Podar and Knowledge Committee Chairman Shri Rahul V. Karad. The Center for Industry Academia Partnerships at MIT World Peace University has taken up the responsibility of organizing INDCON across 11 cities of India, which shall run for the next 9 months, and it will include 150 industry leaders as well as representatives of the government under the dynamic leadership of Mr. Praveen Patil, the CEO of CIAP, who is with us today, along with Dr. Prasad Khandekar, the chairman of the organizing committee. The Delhi NCR region event will be spread over the next 3 days, which has started from 26 November and which shall continue till 28 November, during which 9 virtual sessions will be held with active participations from all stakeholders, industry, academia, and research and development experts. It is my honor to introduce the Indian Merchants Chamber, which was established in 1907 in Mumbai and which represents the interests of Indian trade, commerce, and industry. The IMC has played a significant role in consolidating the Indian business interest and making the Indian economy self-reliant. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to introduce the Center for Industry Academia Partnership briefly. The Center for the Industry Academia Partnership was started with the intention to build collaboration with industry and academia to encourage the maximum potential and impact outcomes. The step taken is in the direction to develop innovative solutions through process-driven approach. Mr. Praveen Patil, the CEO of the Center for Industry-Academia Partnership, has been a pioneer in developing it and taking this noble initiative ahead in bringing a significant change within the university. After a thorough discussion on day 1 and session 1 of day 2, we now move towards session 2. The theme of this session is, will the NEP 2020 be helpful in promoting research and development culture in India? For thorough discussion, we have the privilege to have amongst us Professor Anil D. Sahasrabudhe, Chairman of AICTE, Dr. M. Durgamohan, Director, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan's Usha and Lakshmi Mittal Institute of Management, and Dr. Ravikumar Chitnis, Pro Vice Chancellor, MIT World Peace University. The moderator of this session is none other than Dr. Prasad Khandekar, the Dean of Faculty of Engineering and Technology of MIT World Peace University. Before formally handing over the session to Sir, I have a small request to the participants to type all your questions in the chat box provided, and all the questions shall be taken care of towards the end of the session. Over to you, Dr. Khandekar.
Thank you so much, Professor Basu, for that brief introduction. It's indeed my honor and privilege to moderate this session where we have such a large luminaries, people who have made their life mission to develop this research culture in and across India. The theme for today's session is, will the NEP 2020 be helpful in promoting R&D culture in India? Just to set the context before I introduce all the panel members, for our participants, we need that India has realized that research and innovation is the key so as to become a developed country. And a lot of serious deliberation, discussions, policies have been framed by our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, and we have been gearing up to make our India a developed country. So today's session, how NEP 2020 can help in that dream, is what we are going to deliberate and discuss. And we have with us three luminaries, eminent speakers. I would like to introduce each one of them. Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe, whom we know as AICTE chairman, who has made radical changes to uplift the quality of technical education across India. Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe comes from a mechanical engineering background. He did his mechanical engineering at IIT Govt. He is currently chairman of All India AICTE. He has held several important academic, research and administrative positions at ISC Bangalore, Tata Consulting Engineers, Northeastern Regional Institute of Science and Technology, Itanagar, and IIT Guwahati. He also served as Director, College of Engineering, Pune since 2006, and on deputation from IIT Guwahati prior to joining as AICTE Chairman. As an academician and researcher in NERST and IIT Guwahati, and as an administrator in the capacity of Director COP, he has taken several new initiatives for academic, curricular, co-curricular, entrepreneurship, research, and good governance. He is chairman, Basic Scientific Research. He is a member of Import Committee of UGC and SWAYAM Board. He is a fellow of ISTE, IET, Institution of Engineers, INAE. He has been bestowed with several awards, which include My Entrepreneur Award 2011 of Praj Industries, Jivan Gaurav Puraskar, that is Lifetime Achievement Award from MIT World Peace University, Pune in 2019, Mahatma Gandhi Leadership Award from Indian Achievers Forum and CSR Times in 2009. It is indeed our honor to welcome Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe on the virtual dais today. Our second speaker for today's discussion is Professor Ravikumar Chitnis. He is currently the Pro Vice Chancellor of MIT World Peace University. He is known for his futuristic clear vision and conviction and the ability to bring ideas into reality. Sir has 32 years of academic experience and 10 years of professional experience. Sir started his career in NIBM and then moved on to academics. He has held several positions in SPPU as a member academic council, chairman of board of studies. He has around 7 degrees to his credit, MPhil, MBS, MCOM, etc. He has strong research profile to his credit, and he has published 11 books mainly in the domain of finance. As regards to his awards, he was chairman and member coordinator of NAC for various institutions. He is a member of UGC Committee of STRIDE, the scheme for transdisciplinary research for India's developing economy. He is a reviewer of QS University Ranking System. He is a recipient of Best Teacher Award on Education Management by Higher Education Forum of India. He is member and vice president of Pune Management Association. He is a member of World Trade Center, and he has taken a lot of initiative in the international collaboration. If I have to go through that, it may take another 10 minutes. So thank you so much, Professor Chitnis, to join this discussion. And our third speaker is Dr. Durgamohan Munsunuri. He is an alumnus of Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, New Delhi, with a PhD in marketing from Dr. B.R. Ambedkar University, Agra. He has 22 years of academic experience and 18 years of industry experience. He is currently professor and director of Bhavans, Usha and Lakshmi Mittal Institute of Management, New Delhi. In his current position as professor and director, he is responsible for managing a large, big institute. He has conceptualized and implemented medium-term strategy plan for his institute to take it into top 20. Again, if I have to go through his profile, it is a very long profile. It may take another 5-10 minutes. So Dr. Durgamohan, we are indeed honored to have you for today's discussion. Now, to start the discussion, I just want to set a context for our participants. For the last 5 years, we have seen that R&D expenditure as a percentage of GDP in India has remained stagnant at around 0.69%. And it is, in terms of value, it is 50,000 crores. If you see our gross expenditure in R&D, then the higher education contributes to around 6.8%. And India, on all these norms, if you have to see, we are lagging, and there is a lot we can do as industry, academia, and the policymakers like AICT and the government. So my first point, I want to have Professor Sahasrabudhe in his opening remarks. How does he feel that NEP, the new education policy, will play an important role in developing this research and development culture, which I think is a dire need today. So over to you, Professor Sahasrabudhe, for opening remarks.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prasad Khandekar ji. We have co-panelists Durgamohan and Ravi Chitnis, good friends of mine. And this question which comes to our mind has been there for all these 7 decades after independence as well. Unfortunately, the spending on education itself is gradually increasing. There has been a constant demand that at least 6% of the budget should be spent on education, and at least 1/3 of it or more than half of it should come to the higher education as well. And higher education not for the fees of the students and the other support system, but mainly for research purposes. If this happens, I think the turnaround and becoming Atmanirbhar, which is a slogan which is being talked about today, will become a reality. So this is a truth. But however, when India got independence from then on, there was a lot of requirement of developing infrastructure in the country, whether it is in terms of roads, railways, airports on one side, a lot of industries, public sector, and all of that required huge quantum of money. And during the regime of British, all the wealth of the country was taken away to the other country, that is UK, and therefore we were starving in terms of creation of infrastructure. Our gross enrollment ratio in higher education was as low as 0.7%. And from then on till today, in 7 decades, we have reached now 27%. So that itself shows that there is an enormous growth in terms of education and accessibility of education to all segments of the society, whether it is women, whether it is scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, remote areas. All of them are slowly and steadily being brought into the sector of education. And that's why that spending was more relevant and more important at that point in time. And therefore, rather than cribbing about it was not happening, we should look forward to the future. And that is where this national education policy, which has come at the right juncture, we must explore all the facets of this in order to empower our citizenry in terms of creating that research ecosystem. Now I'll step back and also talk about our ancient knowledge systems in India. people assume that the research culture is only brought from the West to the India. And that is because all the Nobel laureates mostly come from either US or UK or some of the European countries and Israel, and some very rarely to the eastern side, maybe in China, Japan, and once in a while to India. But the essence is India, with its civilization of thousands of years, had that rich heritage of science and research. People have forgotten that. Unfortunately, because it has not been taught in the schools, in the textbooks, we assume that everything has come from the West. Look at the material science, iron pillar of Ashoka, which is there standing erect for several centuries without getting corroded. That kind of alloy was prepared in India. Then in terms of Ayurveda, many things are there. So I don't want to go on into the Indian knowledge systems, but essentially what is required is that vigor which is required for conducting research existed in this country, and we somehow lost that track during the foreign rule for about 700, 800 years. That is 7-8 centuries, from 12th century onwards till 20th century, we were in the dark as far as the research is concerned. Otherwise, why did students come to Nalanda and Takshila from all over the world to study here? So I think that being the background, this new education policy on one side tries to create emphasis on Indian knowledge systems and create enthusiasm that we can do it. That is the philosophy which is to be embedded. Secondly, the actual hardcore funding which is required for conducting research. Unfortunately, in these 7 decades, there was certainly support system. We have a Department of Science and Technology, we have a Department of Biotechnology, BRNS, we have a Department of Atomic Energy support, ISRO support, then UGC, AICTE, MHRD, and several other ministries also supported research in some small way. Unfortunate part was all of them having a small kitty, their pockets being not deep enough. So even if the project requires a huge funding, say about setting up of equipment and also corresponding other accessories, building, and then recruiting people who can handle those equipment, if you require say 7-8 crore rupees, none of these agencies had any such provision for funding to such an extent. So all faculty members who were writing their project proposals had to split into a very small segment of it. You ask one equipment, say some electron microscope from one, tunnel microscope from the other, a 3D printing machine from another one, and then you try to collate, somehow manage the show. And in the process, the entire vision that you want to create something new was not able to be done in the given time frame. And by that time, something else will happen across the globe and we will again be falling behind. I think that is what was going on all these years. Secondly, support from the government was there, at least in a limited way. When it came to the support from the industry in terms of research funding, there was hardly anything. There are almost zero, I should say, except some notable exceptions like Tata Group, which has set up a research center of its own in Pune, that is TRDDC, which is there right in Pune itself, which is an industry-supported research center. If you look at many other industries, they hardly have any research. They normally take the technology which is there available from abroad and then duplicate it and then start using it. And you, in the process, pay a heavy price for the royalty to the original innovators and whoever has done that research. And that is where it is like chicken and egg problem. Who will start? First, whether industry should support the academic institutions and to do research, or academic institutions should create something new and then offer it to the industry. And that famous slogan, I really like the word used by you, that industry institute partnership. And this is what I have been promoting for some time now, last couple of years, that we, in our college times and including my PhD time, we always used to have industry institute interaction seminar. Annually once, people from industry and people from academia come into a conference hall, 200 people sit there, have a chat about how we should go forward and have a cup of tea and lunch and dinner, and then finally move on. And then they again meet next time for the next industry institute interaction seminar. And maybe once in a while, some of those industries used to come for institutions for their placement drive. Other than placement and one seminar, nothing used to happen. And from there on, now we talk about industry institute collaboration. we talk about industry-institute partnership. That means as much industry requires academic institutions require industry. And if that starts happening and some kind of funding for research comes from industry and also from the government, I think it is a three-way, procedure which will really catapult India into the research domain. Now, coming back to the national education policy, one important thing which is mentioned is National Research Foundation. The idea of National Research Foundation is very important because, as I said in the beginning, that when a person requires some 7-8 crores, he will write to DST for about 50 lakh, they will give 25 lakh. He will write to AICT for 25 lakh, we will give 10 lakh. Now I'm talking about AICT also. Similarly, everyone will cut corners and give something less than what they have asked for. And ultimately, the result is nothing will happen in the process, and we will all crib that institutions are not doing, they have claimed that they would like to do something and they have not been able to achieve the outcomes that they were desired to do it. And that is where the National Research Foundation with huge funding, the funding of the order of 50,000 crore is planned to be available for a National Research Foundation, and directly Prime Minister's office is going to hold this. And therefore, the large scale amount which is required for research will start coming in. And if industry also pitches in, so if it is something, a product which is useful for industry, some component of that comes funding from industry, some part from the government, and the institution which has faculty who can really do that research. And they should not be in isolation. Another area is of collaboration. We don't forget about institute to institute, within the institute, department to department, within the department, faculty to faculty, laboratory to laboratory. Our communication is very poor. And in the same institute, under the same laboratory, many times 2 different professors are doing the same act and they don't even talk to each other. I think we have to have collaborative effort, which this policy talks about in various ways. Support for innovation, support for research. I see very bright light at the end of the tunnel.
Thank you so much, Professor Sahasrabudhe, for that opening remarks. As you correctly said, I did not visualize the loss of 7 centuries, which somehow we could cover in 7 decades. And I think the foundation is now ready through this NEP policy for the developing research and development culture in India. Now I'd like to go to Professor Chitnis for his opening remarks. Sir, how do you think this NEP policy will help, which Professor Sahasrabudhe sir was mentioning, to develop this culture? So for your opening remarks, Professor Chitnis, I invite. Sir, I think you're on mute. Professor Chitnis, you're on mute. Professor Chitnis, will you unmute yourself? No. Yeah.
Nilesh, unmute him from the backend. Nilesh? Yeah.
Yeah, no. Professor Chitnis, you can speak now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you from unmuting from there. Yeah. As Dr. Sahasrabudhe sir has rightly said that the funding going to come for NRF is very high, and it used to be 0.69% earlier of the total GDP. If you look at, we are going as a third economy in the world in terms of PPP, around $10 trillion. And if you look at the NEP draft right now, which was there in 2019, there is a mention which Dr. Sahasrabudhe will subscribe as 1% of GDP minimum should be rotated into NRF, National Research Foundation. If you look at that, in addition to 50,000 crores coming from Prime Minister's fund, and in addition to that, 1% of GDP every year, it becomes a huge amount, 1% of a $10 trillion. We always say that DST, Dr. Sahasrabudhe used that word, but there are so many other societal challenges which you have, which are, requiring some kind of a research to be done. It need not be always technology. And apart from me, all are engineers on the panel. So I want to tell you that other than technology, a lot of research can be done, which could be multidisciplinary. And thereby, we should also emphasize liberal arts or maybe other branches, other domain knowledge. That is what NEP says, that it's going to be multidisciplinary, and even the liberal arts, commerce, then management, everyone will be getting funds for doing research. NEP also says that finally, upliftment and spiritual and intellectual satisfaction and creativity need to be attended, and research in arts and humanities along with innovations in science and social sciences is important. It is seen, as the today's topic says, what is the connectivity between NEP and the research in Indian economy. NEP, as Dr. Kasturi Rangan is a very senior research scientist, they have said in one of the speech which I have attended, that, and which is there in the part of NEP in the point 18 for higher education, that world's best universities became best because they involved component of research in their pedagogy, or in the they did huge investment in the research, and thereby Indian universities under NEP will have three categories: universities by research, universities by teaching, and colleges giving independent degrees. So this NRF will be connected with this research-driven universities, and thereby the number of patents, which are pretty low comparing US and China, will be going. It may not happen in next 5 years or 10 years, but we are looking at 20 long years, 2020 to 2040, that this NEP, NRF, and the changes in some of the patent acts will give boost to having India's own patents as equivalent to larger economies than us like US and China. Right now, we are getting funding from these institutions, and mostly, other than UGC STRIDE, where I happen to be a member, most of them are going into medical or engineering. And thereby, we should also have some kind of a specialization or some kind of a sub-department in NRF, that other than science, medical technologies, the research can be done. That is what is the point I'm propagating here. NRF's basic objective is to coordinate with the other funding agencies. So one is NRF itself is getting huge funding. And like it's a first love of Dr. Sahasrabudhe sir, industry academia tie-up. And even the startup project is his first love. We all appreciate his Bhavu concept in COE. And thereby, this NRF will be coordinating agency, not only funding agency. It won't be like UGC STRIDE where only funding is given, but the entire coordination is given. There is a similar kind of a service in banking industry abroad, is called as a factor service. They not only give the funding, but also do the hand-holding initially, like a private equity and the management consulting. Primary activities of NRF will be fund, then peer-reviewed grant proposals, and seed sowing, grow the facilities for research and academic institutions, and then become a liaison activity between the researchers and relevant branches of government. Right now, there are only national level institutes. At very young age, more than a decade, I work with National Institute of Bank Management as a researcher. And there I see that there is no linkage agency between the government, RBI and NIB. And that's why you will see all top 4 like agencies, which are foreign agencies, they have grabbed the share of consultancy, which we called as a big 4. But this big 4 can be easily replaced by our 28 national institutions like National Institute of Bank Management or Virology or maybe National Institute of Insurance, etc. This would be the opening remark. At the end, I want to say that today's topic, will NEP 2020 helpful in promoting research, development, culture in India? Answer is yes. One is separate institutions, universities dedicated to research, Secondly, creation of NRF and Prime Minister's office coming into this. And I'm told by the team, some of the members who are in the team of NEP, that there is going to be the major change in the Patent Act. Thereby, the boost will come. Otherwise, Patent Act or the process of patent is pretty slow. And you really don't know. You applied for patent, but whether you will get it in next 2 to 3 years or 4 years. With this opening remark, I thank Dr. Khandekar and his entire team and hand over to Master of Ceremony. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Sahasrabudhe, sir. It is honor to share dais with you.
Thank you, Professor Chitnis. I think twice you mentioned about the patents and the delays in patents and how NEP can help there. I mean, you shared your concern about that. I applied for Indian patent in 2011, and 3 days back it was in the examination. It took around 9 years for me to reach to that stage. And if you see the statistics of patents, out of 47,000 plus patents filed in 2017-18, only 32% are by Indians. I'm talking only about Indian patents. So that too, the share of Indians in Indian patents is very less. Surprisingly, US and China are leading in filing Indian patents. But thank you so much for your opening remarks. And you also made a mention about or shared your concern that most of the funding might go to technology or sciences, but there's a need to create another vehicle so that other like liberal arts, social sciences can also get some funding through this NRF. Now I'd like to go to Dr. Durgamohan for his opening remarks. And what is his thought whether and how NEP 2020 will help in promoting R&D culture? Over to you, Dr. Durgamohan.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Khandekar. And as Professor Chitnis said, for me, it's an honor to share the virtual dais with Professor Sahasrabudhe. He may not remember, long time back, 2003, I was at IIT Guwahati, and we met for reasons which are also very close to my heart, because both of us studied at Dharwad, Hubli Dharwad. So, it is a bond, and I'm very happy and honored that, I'm able to meet him on this virtual platform. So, sir, good afternoon. And at the same time, I will speak from a perspective of a business school, and at this, and also give a little, my own views. There are two aspects that I always, that bothered me a lot, which even Professor Sahasrabudhe said and Professor Chitnis said, is the funding. Absolutely, because without funds, we can't go anywhere. The second aspect, which I feel, is that the person who is going to head the NRF, in the sense that we have the best policies, we have the best framework that has been put into place, but then if the person or the group of people, as it says that it is by rotation, there are going to be board of governors on the NRF, what kind and what is it that they are going to bring about the change in our outlook. So these two aspects that always bothered me, because running an institution which is self-funded, the funding is always an issue. And, at the same time, funding for those aspects of the institution which they, so that the institution grows. That is one aspect, The second is the people, because it has been said, and we all know it, that the present government changed the Planning Commission into Niti Aayog. The Planning Commission, whatever I have been told, is that used to allocate funds and leave it there. So what used to happen to it? Outcomes were not, checked. So if it is an outcome based, in the sense the NRF is setting up, it has laudable objectives, absolutely, when I went through it, when it was published, the NEP 2020, I was really happy that yes, at last we see the light at the end of the tunnel. As Professor Sahasrabudhe said, it is 700 years. It is not 1 or 2 years. That India was languishing, or thanks to historical reasons. Now, from one aspect of NRF, which is for me is very interesting, and at the same time I feel is important, is it says recognize outstanding research and progress. And when we have 50,000 crores as the corpus fund, and then it keeps going up, as our GDP goes up. If we look at as a percentage of the GDP, why not we have a kind of a Nobel Prize? Yeah, why not? And do it at a level so that the Indian scientists, the Indian researchers get international recognition. Okay. Today, if you look at it, I can see one Nobel Prize winner behind, Dr. Sahasrabudhe's this thing.
Yes.
Yeah, C.V. Raman. Those days of C.V. Raman and with minimal funding and minimal equipment, which I was told, and even today it's a fact that anywhere in the world, if somebody is studying physics, they have to study Raman effect. Yeah, you need a lot of funds. That is one aspect. So if NRF is able to set up a kind of a prize, which again is 100% based on the merit, and gives impetus to this researcher to do research further, the kind of money that, the prize money that can go into, why not? We have Gandhi Peace Prize, if at the national level we are looking at peace and then we are awarding this, so why not in research? So that is one, I think, will be a great boost. One of the things, apart from the others which Professor Chitnis also mentioned about the NRF. So my sincere wish is that NRF sets up a kind of a Nobel Peace Prize, in India, so that it gives that impetus to our researchers to do research. Then coming to the business school, and Professor Sahasrabudhe said, I 100% agree, but I go one step further, that as far as business schools are concerned, the industry looks at business schools as a very, very low cost talent acquisition process. In the sense, when we talk about the placement process, absolutely important for a business school, and I'm a votary to it. The industry looks at it as a very, very low cost process, because they just come, we set up everything, they select the students based on their criteria and give them jobs. But when we talk of the academic industry interface, it should go beyond that. It should go beyond that. The industry should not look at us as a talent acquisition pool, which they are doing it today, and I'm very happy that they are doing it. But it should go beyond that. And there I talk about a little, it is a little personal, it's a little historical. My mom always used to say Tata Institute, and she never called it Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore, because she was there in Bangalore from, I think, 1942, 43. So those days it was called Tata Institute. And I was reading a little bit about it, that those days when this Tata Institute of Sciences was set up, and now it's called Indian Institute of Science, Tata's thought about that, yes, research has to be done. So somewhere I feel that the industry feels that research is essential. But from my perspective, I feel that we should put proposals, to the industry for funding, whereby it's a win-win situation for both the academics and the industry. And at this juncture, from a B school, very, very, focused on a business school, the students do a lot of projects, as a part of the curriculum. They do they do go for summer internships, they do live projects, etc., etc. Now, why not do a study for an institution, for a company, and send it across? You can send a teaser that this is a study we have done, and then this is what the results are, and then we can discuss further. And once a business company feels that, yes, there is value here, value addition to their own organization, and I'm pretty sure that they'll come forward. And as far as research in B schools is concerned, it's not a very expensive one. However, it's a very tough one, as research everywhere. So the other aspect which the whole world tells, that people anywhere in the world, businesses want to know about Indian market, because it's a huge, huge market. And there is very less written about or researched on the Indian market. So they want to know who is this Indian customer, as an example. It's very difficult to just define this Indian customer in 2 lines or 3 lines. A lot of research can be done. And if a business or a company knows its customer and who is its customer, what are his or her qualities, then they will be successful. The third aspect, which is again dovetailed into the social sciences and into business, is knowing about Indian culture and doing a lot of research there. Because that helps again in understanding the Indian psyche, the Indian customer. And that's where I think there's a lot to be done and a lot of scope is there. And finally, when I say this, why I'm saying this is very simple, is that General Motors came into India and then they closed shop. Yeah, Ford Motors have sold off to Mahindras. The reason is they were not able to understand who is this Indian customer and was not able to cater to his or her needs successfully and also in a competitive manner. So if we are able to do that, and inculcate, if NRF and its schemes, if that research, is inculcated into the academic system, it will do a lot of wonders. And lastly, my closing remark is that I tell my faculty that when we do research, what happens is, if not anything else, at the lowest level, I say that we do a literature review, and thereby we know what is the latest happening. And you also know that yes, this is where the world is going, this is where they're doing the research, and that adds value to my classroom. When I start teaching, that adds a value. So it's a win-win situation when we look at it, that research, when we do, academics get that kind of an impetus and also value addition there. And when we do it with an industry-focused research, the industry gets benefited. Yes, it has to be strengthened. It is not like what the industry academic interface that exists in US. We don't have that. Industry does not, have that confidence in us. Confidence in academics.
You're absolutely right, Dr. Durgamohan. Now I have a couple of questions for Professor Sahasrabudhe. Is it only the responsibility of government to give funding? Can industry play some role? Because if we see our model, I think 52% research funding comes from the government, whereas in US, it's hardly 10%. So do you think that industry also has a major role to play in funding? And my follow-up question after that, once funding is received by an academic institutions, how do we ensure actual research and innovations happen? Because one problem is the funding, which everyone was screaming about. Private universities do not get funding, and government is doing a lot. So I have two questions for you, Professor Sahasrabudhe. What is the role of industry? Do you think industry can also do something about funding through CSR or something? What is your take on that?
Obviously, the industry must also support research in the academic institutions. In fact, one of the disdain which we listen to from the industry bodies is our students are not industry ready, they are not employable, is partly because they have no exposure towards industry. Therefore, starting from internships in industry for our students when they are still in the graduate schools is one side important. But this connect will also bring in value to both of them. Industry also will look at some of the opportunities that exist amongst the faculty members, where there is a strength in terms of some area, and then starting with some small projects. Once you show the results, industry also will get encouraged to give more and more funding. So this is, as I said, it's a chicken and egg problem. Who should start first? So I think both of us, industry and academia, should move 2 steps forward, takes a little bit of risk, and then start engaging. As far as the research funding from the government is concerned, I'm sure government has also a role. So government should continue to support. Maybe it can reduce from 50% to 30% or whatever, but they have a role to play, because certain development, certain research which is a long-term one, which is not going to get benefit immediately. Many times industry is not willing to put in their money, because industry always looks for whatever they are putting in, return on investment is what they calculate all the time. That is, ROI is one of these major criteria. So if they give a project for 3 years, they want some outcome out of which some product will be created, which will be marketed, and they will get the benefit out of that product immediately. And that is the lookout of the industry. And that's why the problems of research which the industry gives to the academic institutions is of a different nature. And the government, in terms of long-term solutions, that is where the government has to put in their money. And that's why both funding from the government and that of the industry is important. Now, coming back, as I said in the beginning, this NRF is going to be a game changer. And some of you had difficulties or doubts whether it is going to fund the social sciences, management, etc. But it is a holistic one. It is not just for science and technology, although a major chunk of the money will go to science and technology, because research in science, technology, medicine are more expensive. You take some of these fields like the pharmacy research, drug discovery, you have the medicinal research, for cancer or for some of these diseases. You have engineering, technology research, or science research in physics, chemistry. These are biological research in biotechnology is certainly more expensive. Therefore, large chunk of fund will go to some 7-8 areas. But research in law, research in management, research in humanities, social sciences, even anthropology, archaeology, or sociology, psychology is equally important. And in fact, some of these research areas will have a lot of cross-disciplinarity. You require to get a supporting element from psychology, maybe. You may do a very good research in terms of some science or technology effectively, but unless sociology is involved and the people's requirement is taken into account, probably that research will not go to the market. And therefore, research by itself is a multidisciplinary one. And the policy not only talks about research being multidisciplinary, but even the education being multidisciplinary. So even universities which are single domain, like medicine or law or engineering, should expand, including a lot of humanities, social sciences, management, law, etc., into their domain. And that is what is being talked about, reducing the number of institutions so that you conglomerate and become viable alternatives. See, otherwise there are about, I don't know how many percent, I don't remember now the data, but huge number of institutions have less than 1,000 students. How can an institution survive as 1,000 student body? Then you will certainly cut corners in terms of salaries of faculty, equipment availability, and therefore minimum strength of students required in any institution should be 3,000 plus. And so sooner or later, every institution should become autonomous, deciding their own not only curriculum, research areas of interest, and then get the funding. I think this is a holistic view that the new national education policy has talked about. And I will come back to innovation. Innovation is also important. It is not just the original research, but existing domain of knowledge, which we through what are different platforms like Google or through YouTube, we get a lot of information. But how do you distill it in the form of knowledge? That is the role of the teacher. But not just knowledge, but how do you convert that into wisdom? And how do you use that wisdom to create new products and processes, and then also patents? I think this is a chain which has to be clearly established in our technical education or any other education sector, including management education. Research may require less funding, but it is also needed to be articulated because there are challenges. A simple example of demonetization, how this got affected the market forces, how we could have avoided certain things by which the demonetizations, positive things are still retained, but negative things which impacted the society could have been avoided. I think this is a very fundamental and important research. The economy is completely growing now, actually, despite COVID. There was a slump about 6, 7, 8 months, but slowly it is growing. So how customers' demands are taken care of. And many times our students who are innovative, they cling on to their own philosophy and they want to create a startup without realizing whether society or the stakeholders who will be finally buying that product are interested in it. What changes are required in the product so that it will be acceptable to them. I think this market survey is also equally important when we are doing applied kind of a research. And without that, I think we will not be able to succeed. And AICT has taken upon itself through its MHRD Innovation Cell, which is established in AICTE of the ministry, and every institution is asked to create an innovation council in their respective institutions. And while by driving, we want to have 10,000 minimum patents from academic institutions from this year onwards. And this challenge we have accepted, and a lot of support system has been developed. I'm sure we will soon not be close to China or America for some time, but at least in the next 5-6 years, we must be very close to what those two countries are doing. And for your information, through small bits of initiatives, our ranking in the global innovation system of the nations, from 81st position, we have risen to 48 in 5 years. Every year, 5-6 positions, we are jumping and coming to 48. Our potential is top 10. When we have Jugaad technologies from uneducated people, when educated people start innovating, I'm sure we will be in the top 10. And our examinations are very crucial. Not rote learning only, but beyond rote learning. A lot of innovative, question papers where your analytic skills, critical thinking is tested, your ability to apply a particular knowledge into the different problem statements, all of this. And our Smart India Hackathon has proved it. Young undergraduate students of second year and third year have given solutions to DRDO, ISRO, Textile Ministry, to Railway Ministry, to the Ayush Ministry. So there is a talent. It is we, the teachers, we have not explored it, and we have not supported it. We have not mentored them. And the fault lies in the leadership, whether it is academic or otherwise. I think gradually, with the Prime Minister driving Atmanirbhar Bharat, Make in India, Startup India, and many other things, I'm sure through this new national education policy, all those elements are there which will catapult us in the domain of the knowledge society and create a vibrant Atmanirbhar Bharat in the years to come.
I'm sure, sir, that kind of steps AICTE, UGC, and Government of India has taken in last 3-4 years, we can really see a traction in this particular direction. My question in that regard, because NEP also talks about setting up of startup incubation centers on academic institutions. Professor Chitnis, are you there? I can't see your video. Professor Chitnis, can you hear me?
I have a network problem,
okay.
But I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Sir, my question to you, if you could hear me, is how do you think, apart from starting incubation centers and innovation councils on the institutes, how do you think that we can inculcate this culture in academics itself? Is there any way NEP talks about it? Is there any hint towards it in NEP document?
Of course, yes. But before that, if you permit me, I would like to give example of Dr. Pashelkar sir, who was then director of NCL, and he brought industry academia tie-up, and he approached all the pharmaceutical industries and academic institutes and NCL PhD graduates. They were put together, and a lot of new patents and new drugs formation was done. On the same line, NEP proposes research-based universities. Their role will be pivotal, and they could be, guiding force for new patents to be made, and they would be guiding force even for the existing smaller businesses who do not have research capacity. And research capacity building for each business is not possible, looking at their turnover and the stiff global competition which they have. So in this case, it's going to be real good collaboration between the research universities and at least the small and medium enterprises. About large enterprises, we have to wait, as Dr. Sahasrabudhe rightly said, that we have to go near to China and America in terms of increase in patents. So this is what is my take on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. As Professor Sahasrabudhe mentioned, sir, one more point where India is improving is our Scopus publication rank. We are now in top 10 now, sir. It has really improved in last few years. My question to Dr. Durgamohan is about what do you think in NEP, because it also talks about MERU, Model Multidisciplinary Education and Research University. I want to know what, maybe it has not come as a policy document some points, but can we start in that direction, even though there are no implementation guidelines? Can universities start taking some baby steps? And if at all, what could be those baby steps to start developing this culture, which NEP mentions about?
Thank you. You see, the first aspect, I think, is if we change to the credit-based system, Yeah. Then what happens is the student has an option. Now, most of the time, the student does not have an option. He is supposed to or she is supposed to take these courses to get this degree. And if you go by a credit-based system, yes, it does help because it then left to the student. Yes, it is more difficult for the academic institutions because how many subjects you offer, faculty, these issues are there. But as you said, baby steps, yes. One is if we go by the credit-based system, that is one step forward. The second, which I feel, which I did not mention in my opening remarks, is that in 1950s, if 53, 54, if I'm not wrong, if the American government thought of and the Bloom taxonomy came into existence, we still have a long way to go. Professor Sahasrabudhe said analytical skills and very, very key. The higher order thinking skills is something we should move away from the rote learning to the higher order thinking skills. And if we are able to inculcate those analytical skills, yeah, into the, incorporate into the curriculum, and at the same time teach the students, that is the other aspect, which I feel, will actually take our higher educational institutions to the next level. Something that is, important again for higher educational institutions, I'm a little bit digressing, the industry interface, is that higher educational institutions and B schools or engineering colleges or universities should consider industry as a stakeholder. So if they apply the stakeholder theory and give that importance, it makes a difference. So three things. One is credit-based system. That's where it matters. And dovetailing employability skills into the curriculum. This is where I feel, because this is what is very close to my heart. The student should be employable at the end of his course or her course when she finishes. And that can only happen if we are able to identify the industry needs and teach that what the industry wants, make them job ready. Yeah, I'll give you a small example here of a US university. I don't want to take their name. And this professor of finance was telling me that my students of finance, they get jobs on Wall Street, but then from day one, the company wants that they start contributing. There's no time for them. So we train them, yeah, like that. So what I'm trying to say is that this aspect of what the industry is actually looking for, what is it that they need, and then if that gets dovetailed into the curriculum, then yes, it's a win-win situation, I say, both for the industry and the academics. And lastly, just one mention of the research. If, as Dr. Sahasrabudhe said, which I'm a votary to it, I always say that go with a good proposal. Go with a good proposal, do some spade work, and if we are able to convince the industry, they will fund us. They will fund us. It's not that they won't fund us. And it is not that every business enterprise will do it, but there are many companies in India which have that kind of wherewithal, which has that kind of funds with them because it helps them. Yeah, thank you.
Got it. And now I have a last question for all the three panel members. This question came to my mind after yesterday, Mr. Shailesh Srivastav, Secretary for Ministry of Heavy Industries and PSUs, talked about a unique concept. He mentioned, Professor Sahasrabudhe, that even industry can come forward and give funds to academic institutes, but he wanted appeal to industry that they will have to fund the manpower or some part of the research. So the basic objective of this INDCON is to connect these three dots: industry, academia, and the government. So from the government side, from the ministry side, also there is a plan to make these three dots connected together. So how do you think, sir, we can take help from the ministry and get funds, or how do we create a model which is a sustainable model to develop a research culture in academia?
I think if you are aware, there was already a scheme called Imprint, where all IITs were, of course, it was not down the line to other academic institutions and private institutions available at that point in time. But in the future, when the new policy talks about no distinction between government and private in terms of the education sector, I'm sure these facilities, these proposals, these projects will be available for all private partners as well. So this Imprint was nothing but in top 10 areas where there are large challenges for not only India, but the whole world actually, whether it is water, energy, sustainability, many of these areas which are required to have solutions. There was a proposal invitation where minimum one of the industries should be a partner on one side, and then also government will be part of that. One of the ministries will be a part of that. And that is how huge funding was provided to all IITs when they applied for such projects. So that was an imprint phenomenon, where already there was a connect which was established between industry, academic institutions, and different government departments. We continued with what is known as GAN. I think you are aware of that. GAN is a global initiative for academic networking, for getting faculty from abroad, from different institutions to India, and to deliver lectures for either 1 week or 2 weeks, the entire expenditure being taken care of by the MHRD, including honorarium, fare of the tickets, etc., except the local hospitality which the college has to do. So I think that was one. Then there is a Spark which has been already going on for the last 2 years. Here already private players are allowed by the ministry. So Spark is a program where at least one of the organizations has to be from outside India. Even it is collaboration between India and abroad. So unless you have one partner from one university in maybe Germany or Australia or USA or Canada or some company there, and you come out with a proposal, you will not get funding. So I think already one is collaboration, one is the interdisciplinary nature, and then large-scale funding. All of that has started happening even much before NRF and new education policy came into existence. Right. So given the roots which have been already established, I see no reason why after the NRF officially is announced, there will be huge amount of opportunity for every type of institution and the industry. So they should identify, institute and industry should collaborate and identify that area which will be win-win situation for both of them. Only then industry will put in its money. It will not put in its money just for the heck of it. And therefore, if say Mahindras, they want to start, they are already doing actually the vehicles which are operated on batteries. Electric vehicles are already in position. But how can we improve the life of the batteries? How can we charge them faster? I think these are areas of research which they will be interested. And that is where market lies in the future. So if some institution like IIT Madras is already doing, other institutions also join hands and with other companies and give them an opportunity that this is what is our capability. Let us work together. And lastly, I would like to appeal to academic institutions that our business of timelines is very, very slack. And that is one area which we have to address. So we cannot blame industry or the government for that. That starts from our culture of what we call as assignments. We give a deadline to students that next Monday you have to submit this assignment, and on Monday only 50 to 60% students submit the assignment, and some of them will say, sir, मैं थोड़ा बीमार हो गया था, मुझे ये हो गया, मुझे जुलाब हो गया, और तो मुझे और 2 दिन दे दीजिए, and we immediately allow them. And that culture of not maintaining the time, starting on time, any program, or the deadline of achieving whatever targets are set on that particular date, if we don't do that, no industry will support us. They are all working on the timelines. If there is a delay, there is a huge loss that they incur. And therefore, in the government, that culture is slowly coming in. So if the project is not completed on time, there must be a penalty on the contractor. That is what Nitin Gadkari ji started. I remember when the Mumbai, all those flyovers were made, those who did faster were given bonus. See, the first time never heard of in the government, that the project cost is 50 crore, and if you do it faster than what is envisaged, you will get additional 1 or 2 crores. I think this kind of advantage also is given, and if you delay it by 6 months, heavy penalty on that also. I think that culture is to be grown into academic institutions, and if you do that, I'm sure that industry will also come forward, and both of us together, and with the support of the government, will scale newer and newer heights.
I'm sure, sir, with your kind of leadership and Modi ji sir's leadership, I think the entire ecosystem is getting ready for that jump where India deserves to be in 5 to 10 years of time. There's one question in the chat box because now it's a question answer time. I can see a question. I would like to ask this question to Dr. Chitnis. While NEP 2020 mainly focused on providing skills through education, R&D infrastructure needs to be improved in our country, and there are infrastructure related gaps to address in educational institutions. What is your view on this?
Yeah, as initially said by Dr. Sahasrabudhe, industry academia tie-up is no more a myth now. It is taking place. I want to attract your attention to NEP. One of the provision in the policy is to allow top 100 universities in the world as per QS or Times ranking to come to India. And if you speak to some of them, I had opportunity to interact with them. Their primary focus is on the research and the tie-up for postdoctoral research. And these universities which want to increase their capacity, and if these universities are good, those who are in India, first option is go to foreign universities tie-up in addition to NRF funding. Second option is TRIDE is giving research capacity and hand-holding kind of a funding available. Thereby the basic infrastructure could be made up and the actual projects could be taken through the industry academia tie-up. This is what is my take on that. Thank you.
Okay. I have one more question in the chat box, which I would like to ask to Dr. Durgamohan. As the NEP 2020 focuses on setting up quality research institutions and promoting innovation, creation of new technologies, what could be the probable challenges in implementing these initiatives and how do we address them?
Thank you. You see, as Professor Sahasrabudhe just said, we have a collaboration with an Austrian university. My students work with them every year on a project. And the feedback we get is that at the end of the project is that time management is an issue. Yeah. So it is something that we need to do. The biggest challenge, as far as I'm concerned, is that, which I said in my initial remarks, is where to find the funds. And as far as I'm concerned, if we are innovative, we can find the funds for quality research. The second aspect is it should not be that we fulfill a requirement. The mindset should change from fulfilling a requirement to what is the outcome. So then when we talk about the whole outcome-based education, what is the outcome of teaching this subject? What is it that the student is going to achieve? In the same manner, if I'm able to see, that this is the outcomes, if I do this project, if I do this research, and thereby what happens is, if the faculty and the students, because in B schools, I always say that there should be, the students and the faculty should together do a lot of research, because you do have legs, in the students which are younger and they can be, very active and, do a lot of primary data collection, which is always an issue. Yes, it does, what you call the mindset or the attitude should change. That yes, I am not fulfilling a requirement because I have to get promoted from assistant professor to associate professor. I need to publish so many papers, etc., etc., etc. To what is that value addition that happens? And this is the biggest challenge which I find, is that if we go away from fulfilling a requirement to the outcome, what is the outcome of it and what is the value addition that happens at the individual level as a faculty and to the institution and finally to the country. Yes, it does. This is the biggest challenge, the attitudinal challenge. And lastly, I say that this is what I teach my students. I said, please take ownership of what we do. So that is where I say ownership means this is what it is it is for me. And if I do that, it is for the institution and for the country. That's what it is. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we had a fantastic 65 minutes of discussion on a very important topic. I would like to go to Professor Sahasrabudhe and the other two panel members for a concluding remark in 2 or 3 sentences. What should be our direction? Kindly guide us, Professor Sahasrabudhe first. Sir, I think you need to unmute yourself.
So we all talk about incubators. So incubation has happened. Now we are in the accelerator phase of the startup. And if the National New Education Policy, which has given this impetus, is used effectively, all that what we are envisaging will be successfully implemented.
I'm sure, sir. I'm sure with leadership, it's possible. Dr. Durgamohan, your quick.
Yeah, just 2 sentences. One is that the academics or the academia should recognize industry as an important stakeholder, and vice versa. The industry should also recognize. If we are able to do that, and I think a lot of these challenges get solved. Thank you.
Professor Chitnis, your quick remarks, concluding remarks. Professor Chitnis, can you hear us? I think we lost the connection with him. So thank you so much, Professor Sahasrabudhe, Dr. Durgamohan, Professor Chitnis. I know you people have a very busy schedule. And
hello.
Yes, Chitnis sir, can you hear us? No, I think no. So as Professor Sahasrabudhe sir said, now we have to get into acceleration mode, and we are all committed to make India proud, to take India to a very developed country.
Able to connect. Khandekar sir, you can go ahead.
I have to go to the program, so I will quit.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for making convenient.
Go ahead. It was wonderful.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So I was trying to say that, yes, now we have the onus on ourselves as academia, industry, and the government to make India a very developed country, maybe a 5 trillion economy in next 5 years to come. With this, I thank everyone, all the panel members for their valuable time, guidance, suggestions, and inputs. I would also like to thank IMC for this fantastic opportunity to connect the 3 important dots which can make India a proud country. I would also like to thank CAP, the Center for Industry Academia Partnership of MIT Vortis University, for orchestrating all the efforts required to conduct this kind of event. I must thank Mr. Praveen Patil, his entire team, Ms. Shobna Anand, Dr. Ketki Kulkarni, marketing team, and IMC's team for this fantastic effort. I would also like to thank Professor Chainika Basu for a fantastic role in anchoring and holding on to session interactively. And last not but least, thank you, Professor Rao, for attending this session, encouraging us. This gives us motivation that we should do much more this kind of events and keep on doing our job as an academician to contribute towards making India a better country. That's what I would say from my side. Thank you, everyone, those who were directly and indirectly involved in making this session a very grand success. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
To put on their video so that we can take a group photograph. Nilesh sir, are we done? Thanks to each one of you. Thank you so much. I'll request all the participants to join us for the next session, which we will start at 2:30 sharp. And the theme of the session is a scope for innovations in research and development in India, the role of higher education and industries. Hope to meet all of you at 2:30 sharp. Thanks to each one of you for your active participation. Thank you.